So, with the Dockers leading by 43 to 27, it's time for 7 Nightly News at HSV with Peter Mitchell.
Peter Mitchell with 7 Nightly News.
John Howard shows his colours at football's biggest match of the year. The Premier defends his government's plans to introduce road tolls, and the Society Wedding of the Year as Bob Hawke marries again. Good evening, and first, today's MCG blockbuster attracted a huge crowd and gave opposition leader John Howard his footballing initiation. But the political centreman has been accused of grandstanding in front of the Prime Minister's favourite AFL team. Lena Kaniva explains.
It's billed as the biggest match of the season, traditional rivals Collingwood and Carlton at the G. It was the place to be, and opposition leader John Howard didn't miss the opportunity to accept Collingwood's invitation. And his initiation into the ways of the Magpies included a presentation by cricket great Dean Jones and a few political pointers based on the Tuddenham tradition.
The practice was that if you weren't going too well, you started a blue at one end of the field to divert attention from the main game. I've even known that to happen in politics. And now I'm heading for what is certainly the toughest match of my life over the next few months.
On the main table with Mr Howard was Carlton boss John Elliott and Kerry Packer's son Jamie, leading to speculation of a footy conspiracy.
Now there's something going on here for sure, and you're absolutely right. There is an amalgamation between Collingwood and Carlton.
Jokes aside, Collingwood's support base doesn't get much higher, with Prime Minister Paul Keating as one of the main ticket holders. The Prime Minister didn't take up his standing offer to be at today's clash as Collingwood ticket holder 101, and he says Mr Howard is just playing follow the leader. Mr Howard isn't planning to take out a Collingwood membership. Lena Kaniva, 7 Nightly News.
Premier Jeff Kennett has strongly defended the government's plans for tolls on new tunnels and freeways. But the opposition says the average family will struggle to pay the new tax slug of about $1,500 a year. State political reporter Brendan Donoghue.
Premier Kennett used his address to party faithful at the Liberal Party council meeting to push two main themes. First, that a state election can be held any time after December 2. And second, the government is determined to go ahead with major projects, no matter how politically risky, as Queensland Labor has found. The main project is the $1.7 billion City Link, the joining of Melbourne's freeway system, using a sophisticated electronic transponder on cars to collect tolls from motorists. The details will be announced tomorrow week, but Mr Kennett wouldn't deny reports that motorists face $3 a trip, $6 for a round trip, or about $1,500 a year.
That's not to say that if you don't like paying, you have to pay. There are, in this city, sufficient other roads available to you so you can avoid the freeway altogether if you wish.
The state opposition says once a car is fitted with a transponder, the owner will be at the mercy of the state government, which could increase toll prices in the future or even introduce new ones.
And I think the more concerning aspect is that if people seek to avoid the tolls, it'll cause chaos in residential areas.
Brendan Donoghue, 7 Nightly News.
A jury has found a South Carolina mother guilty of the drowning murders of her 2 toddlers. As Paul Marshall reports, the jury will decide tomorrow whether Susan Smith should be sentenced to death for the crime which shocked the world.
That she did it wasn't in doubt. Susan Smith had confessed to killing her 2 little boys, 3-year-old Michael and 14-month-old Alex. What the jury had to decide was whether it was murder or involuntary manslaughter. In his closing argument, the prosecutor took the jury back to the night Susan Smith rolled her car into a South Carolina lake with her boys strapped in their car seats. The defence said Susan Smith acted with a confused mind and a heart that had no hope. The jury thought about it for 2.5 hours and found her guilty of murder. No one was surprised.
She expected this. I expected this.
I'd like to see remorse, and not just second-hand.
The jury now will decide whether Susan Smith should go to jail for life or die in the electric chair. There'll be testimony on that next week when the prosecution will try to introduce this reenactment. It shows the car took 6 minutes to sink. In the United States, Paul Marshall, 7 Nightly News.
Bosnian Serb gunners have attacked humanitarian convoys bound for Sarajevo, killing 2 French peacekeepers and wounding 3. With airstrikes now growing increasingly likely, thousands of US troops are preparing for combat. Tim Stott has the latest.
Thumbing their noses at the London ultimatum, the Serbs launched a fresh assault on Sarajevo. 3 people died in this rocket attack. Miraculously, a 4-month-old boy survived the direct hit with only scratches. Fighting rages in Jepa and Bihać, but all is quiet at Gorazda, the one enclave the Serbs were specifically warned not to touch. Rarely does the Vatican take sides in matters of international diplomacy, but the Pope says Western military intervention might now be justified because it could save thousands of lives. From the United Nations in Bosnia, an unusually undiplomatic reaction.
I think it's perhaps not as decisive as one would have hoped, but perhaps it would be naive of us. Perhaps we were naive to expect something decisive.
US forces have today launched a series of invasion exercises which they say just happen to fit a landing and air assault on the Balkans. The French too are looking more menacing as their rehearsals reach a climax. In Australia, a show of support for the embattled Bosnians with street marches around the country. It's becoming a global chorus. Lift the arms embargo and give the Muslims a chance.
The incapacity of the West to understand and to respond to the horrors of ethnic cleansing, I think, is one of the most shameful acts of this century.
In London, Tim Stott, 7 Nightly News.
Kellogg's has discovered metal shavings in some packets of rice bubbles and Cocoa Pops, prompting a nationwide recall. The company decided on the precaution after receiving several complaints from consumers, although there have been no reports of injury. The affected lines are 550-gram rice bubble packs with the use-by codes of April 1996, 193 and 201. Also Cocoa Pops packets with the same date codes and some fun packs. Kellogg's has launched an urgent investigation. It was billed as the wedding of the year, Bob and Blanche's big day. The couple ignored gate-crashing protesters and, like in politics, the former Prime Minister admitted to shedding a tear. Tony Rankin joined the wedding crush.
A relaxed Bob Hawke left home this morning on his way to tie the knot 2nd time round.
Nervous at all? No.
Even a small group of demonstrators protesting his involvement in Burma couldn't ruffle his composure as he arrived at the exclusive Ritz-Carlton Hotel. There was a short ceremony upstairs before the newlyweds emerged to a waiting media throng.
Did I cry? I had a couple of tears in my eyes. Blanche said were very nice.
No, well, I guess I was nervous beforehand, but once we started walking in together, I think... No, once we got to the altar, I wasn't nervous.
Around the corner, there were last-minute preparations for the reception. Inside the Double Bay restaurant, a final touch to flowers and a check of the wedding cake. The chef had been up since 3 o'clock this morning.
It's the wedding of the year, isn't it?
A few minutes later, the 150 guests were arriving.
Oh, well, I'm just very happy for Bob and Blanche. It's a nice day.
It was just a delightful ceremony.
A second group of demonstrators, this time protesting airport noise, set up camp as the bride and groom arrived on a vintage bus. Mr Hawke said there was a couple of things he wanted to clear up. He said no extravagant gift list had ever been sent out, and nor had they sold their story to a magazine. Tony Rankin, 7 Nightly News.
After the break, Greece's worst fires in decades burning out of control.
Right now at OPSM, you can get 50% off any second pair. Not from a selected few, but across our entire range, including prescription sunglasses. Now you can get a great new look from OPSM. Plus the extra saving of 50% off any second pair. For for a short time only at OPSM.
Uncle Toby's Breakfast Bars. For all the times you don't have time for breakfast.
When I was a boy, an old man gave me this cheetah's tooth. He told me the cheetah is the fastest animal in all Africa. He said that when I wear this tooth, I would run like the wind, as fast as the cheetah. What a stupid old man.
Yeah. So who do you like?
Life without Telstra Easy Call can be trying.
No, I don't know.
Very trying.
Greg, he is so hot.
Because you never know when someone is trying to get through.
Mum, why didn't you call? Daddy's furious.
But with Easy Call call waiting,
Hey, hang on, Jude, there's a call coming. It's going to be
just
him,
press recall 2 and you need never miss
Hello?
another call.
Oh, hi, Mum.
Call now on 1800 052 052 to connect and help make life easier for just $3 a month.
No, it's just my mum. Yeah, anyway, what were you saying?
Introducing the Hyundai Sonata. Sonata has a powerful 2-litre engine. It's very roomy. Hello. And from just $24,990, you don't need to be made of money to own one.
Do you want peace of mind when buying new tyres, wheels or a battery from a helpful team you can trust? Then one thing's for sure, Bob's your uncle.
Tonight's weather is proudly brought to you by Bob Jane T-Marts.
Greece is faced with a major natural disaster as forest fires continue to destroy hundreds of homes north of Athens. Mike Amor reports thousands of people have been evacuated.
Firefighters have been powerless to stop the fierce blaze as it continues to burn on a 40-kilometre front. The government has described it as a biblical disaster and has mobilised the army to help fight the country's worst fire in 50 years. While hundreds of homes have been lost and thousands of people evacuated, amazingly there has been no serious injuries. And an American cruise ship is stranded off the Alaskan coast after fire disabled the vessel. A second ship is standing by to help evacuate 1,300 people on board. Mike Amor, 7 Nightly News.
Now to the numbers games. For Lotto players, cross off 15, 21, 32, 18, 25, 35 and the supplementaries 8 and 37. The Super 66 winning numbers are 5, 2, 4, 0, 1 and 6. And soccer pools, the players, the numbers there, 8, 11, 13, 16, 29, 35 and the supplementary number 9. Celebrations today to mark the 50th anniversary of the ordination of the man affectionately known as Melbourne's knockabout priest. Father John Brosnan was honoured at a special mass at our Holy Redeemer Church. He received his first appointment there as a parish priest 8 years ago, after 30 years as prison chaplain. Father Brosnan's parishioners are planning another special mass for him on Wednesday and will present him with a return ticket to Ireland to mark his Golden Jubilee. Now, Mark Beretta with more on today's big MCG clash.
And yes, Mitch, there really is nothing quite like those Collingwood-Carlton clashes, and today was no different. Due to the replay coming up straight after the Fremantle-Richmond clash, if you don't want to know the result of the Blues-Pies clash, then turn away for the next minute and a half. In the meantime, here's Jim Wilson.
With the MCG bursting at the seams, all was in readiness for one of our game's great traditions. It was the Blues who struck the first blow.
Peter Dean, the 200-game veteran, kicks first goal to the Blues.
Carlton kicked 3 goals in 2 minutes in a blistering opening. Collingwood finally kicking their first through the brilliant Graham Rice.
Goes for home. It's close. It's there.
Rice's quick thinking then gave Williams the opportunity to stretch the Blues' lead. A minute later, Diesel returned the favour and Rice kicked a beauty.
Around the body. Not bad. Very, very good.
But the Pies just kept on coming and Buckley's miraculous snap closed the gap.
That is a sensational kick.
Williams did his best to incite the Collingwood crowd and they responded. At half-time, it was the Blues by 23 points. But Collingwood emerged from the main break far more committed, and Patterson's freakish snap slashed the Blues' lead to just 3 points. But two costly mistakes by the usually reliable Gary Pert proved disastrous. Rice and then Manton making the veteran backman pay a heavy price.
Comedy of errors here. An absolute comedy of errors.
When Sexton exploded out of the Blues' backline and nailed a gem, Carlton's lead was 24 points at the last change. And while the Blues were kept goalless in the final term, they'd done enough, winning their 7th match on the trot.
Games like this only come around sort of once or twice a year, and to get 80,000 to play in front of and to come away with a win, it's fantastic.
And up at the Gabba, Brisbane staged the best comeback this season to beat Hawthorn in a thriller. The Bears were trounced all day and were 45 points down at three-quarter time, but then came the turnaround. Brisbane booted an incredible 9-7 in the final term to overrun the tired Hawks.
New Zealand's Michael Campbell is on the verge of his greatest victory, taking a two-shot break into the final round of the British Golf Open. Campbell today finished with a superb 7-under par 65. He leads Italy's Constantino Rocca by 2, with Australia's Steve Elkington a stroke further back. Of the other Aussies, Brett Ogle is 3-under, while Robert Allenby is even. Here's Jack Newton.
Nick Faldo had plenty of admirers today. Playing partner Steve Elkington wasn't one of them.
She ran right past me when I was getting ready to, hit my shot. Went over to Nick, kissed him. He hit the ground. He rolled around for a while, like he does.
Birdies at 2 of the first 3 holes gave Elkington the perfect start.
Didn't take very long about it. And really tremendous shot.
The old course had a new look in the 3rd round. The wind blew strongly into the golfers on the front 9. The greens became rock hard and at times impossible to hold.
It's galloping away.
But when you're from windy Wellington and your name's Michael Campbell, it was ideal conditions.
Beautiful combination of line and pace there.
This game can offer many nerve-wracking tests. Against the road hole bunker when you're leading the Open is as tough as it gets.
You got clear.
Campbell's bogey-free 7-under par 65 was one of the greatest rounds I've ever seen, given the conditions, the stage, and the struggle the overnight leaders had to post a score. Tomorrow he gets the opportunity to show the rest of the world what I've thought for some time, he is destined for greatness. Jack Newton at St Andrews for 7 Nightly News.
In basketball, Australia has taken the silver medal at the World Men's Under-20 Championships, beaten in today's final by Greece. The Baby Boomers led at half-time but were outclassed in the second half, losing 91-73. David Loudon reports.
Just making the final of the World Championships was Australian basketball's greatest achievement, and the Baby Boomers quickly showed the partisan Greek crowd they were out to win the gold medal. They led by a point at half-time, but Greece blitzed in the second half and were 12 points up with 2 minutes to play when the lights went out. The 20-minute delay simply postponed celebrations. Greece, the world junior champion. And with one stage remaining, Miguel Indurain cannot be beaten in the Tour de France. Big Mig wrapped up his 5th tour thanks to another superhuman effort in the 46.5-kilometre individual time trial.
Let us watch the finest man in the world of cycling at work again today.
David Loudon, 7 Nightly News.
And Mitch, that's all in sport. Of course, the big Collingwood-Carlton replay still to come.
Thank you, Mark. Now on to Melbourne's weather and a few light showers about the suburbs today. 13.4 was Melbourne's top after a low of 9. It's around 12 at the moment and humidity is on 70%. The Bureau says conditions are gradually improving across Victoria. Some scattered showers about the state tomorrow, mainly in the south though, with 13 for Geelong and Sale. In Melbourne tomorrow we can expect cloudy periods with a few showers and a top of 13 after a low of 7 tonight. And then on Tuesday becoming fine after early drizzle and 13 again. Fine conditions expected for Wednesday, then fine again on Thursday before late showers develop once more. We'll be back at the usual time of 6 o'clock tomorrow night, but for now it's back to Subiaco.
Both teams back onto the ground for the resumption of play in the 3rd quarter. Fremantle leading 6-7 to 3-9. 43 plays 27 at half-time. The Dockers goal kickers all singles, and for Richmond, Matthew Knights has 2 goals. Don Scott, what moves do you think that John Northey
Well, he's already
made
made some, Peter, and that is Gale's gone to